Hello to my millions of subscribers. I'm just going to do a quick video here to try to show you how to put images into web pages, which is, of course, is something that we all want to do, brightens them up, makes them look a bit more interesting, etc. So, first of all, what I'm going to do is open up my previous HTML document to edit. So you might remember that I just need to go and find it. So mine is nicely organized in my folder. I'm doing my notepad example site, and then what I need to remember to do is right click on it and edit with notepad++. Otherwise, if I double click it, by default it's going to open up in my browser. So I'll click on that. Remember also, notepad++ by default has a setting where actually if you just open it up, it'll open up with any tabs that were there already. So let's see, I need to add an image in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a little image. I've got a bit about the Goonies here, so why not? I'm going to add in an image of the Goonies. So first of all, I need an image, obviously. Now, where do we get an image? For this, I'm going to get one for the web, because this is just for my personal use. I'm just going to grab an image just to demonstrate here. But I could equally take a photo myself with a camera. I could draw something and scan it in. I could draw something on a piece of software like Paint or Paint.net, which I've got here, or Photoshop. These are all options. I'm going to look on the web. Now, if I was making a website that was going to be actually online and available to everyone to access, I need to think about copyright. I need to make sure I'm getting an image that I'm allowed to use, whether that means it's just free to use, it's copyright free, or whether I've actually paid for it, or whatever. So I either create an image myself, or I have to make sure I've got one that is legal to use in terms of copyright, so that the content creator, the person who made the image, gets money for it. If they want money for it, they're entitled to it. So for now, I'm just going to do a search for Goonies. Now, I'm using Chrome. So things are slightly different in different browsers, but let's go to images. A little note about getting images. This one will do. Don't just try to save that image there. So I'm just right clicking and save image as. If I save that, then I'm getting a low quality image. If I try to make it bigger, it's just going to become pixelated. It's going to look terrible. So I should always open the image in a new tab. Now, it's something slightly different in Internet Explorer. I can't quite remember what happens, but anyway, there we go. Open image in new tab. It's just to make sure that I'm getting it full size. That's all I'm getting on that one. Oh well, I'm going to stick with it. Once you get it in a tab on its own, now right click on that and save that. Okay. Obviously, when we save it, we want to give it a sensible name. Now, actually, first of all, I'm going to make sure I'm saving it in the right location. So where do we want to save it? Don't just hit save and be done with it. You need to know where it's saved. When you try to include it in your web page, the browser isn't going to know where to find it unless you know where to find it. So the place to save it every time is in your website folder. So remember, we made a folder to store everything for this website. Well, we're going to save our image in there. That makes life a lot easier. Now, we're going to keep things really simple. We're just going to save the image in there with a sensible name, a sensible short name, one that you're going to misspell. Sometimes you save images from the web and they have massive long names that you're never going to manage. Just save it with a short name there. And I'm also noting that this is a JPEG image, which is good, but I need to remember that. I can, excuse me, I can do things like create folders for my pictures if I've got a lot of images to add. I can do that, but we're not going to do that just now. I'll maybe, at the end, I'll maybe do a little bit on how we can do that in case anyone's interested. It's, again, slightly more advanced, very slightly more advanced, but slightly more professional, I suppose, slightly more organized. So I'm going to save that. Wonderful. Now let's go and check that it's worked. So I'll go back to my folder here, and there it is. Now remember I said it was a JPEG it was saving as. Well, I can check that here. If I've forgotten, I can go here, and it's saying type JPG, which is the file extension for a JPEG file. I can also see it coming up down here, and I can also, if I right click on it, I can get properties, and that I think will tell me also, or it will if it comes up. There we go. So I can see the JPEG file. So images can be saved in a large number of formats, but there are a few standard file formats for graphics on a computer that we're interested in. JPEG is one of them. Another one is PNG. It doesn't have an I in it, but I certainly pronounce it ping. Another one is GIF, or GIF if you prefer to pronounce it that way. It's GIF, GIF. You'll have come across those as animated GIFs, memes and things. And another one is a sort of Windows format, BMP, as in bitmap, which you might have heard of. Anyway, this one is a JPEG. We need to remember that. Right, I've got an image. If I created an image with paint on it, or I took one with my camera or whatever, I would have to save it in here in the same way. So let's go back to Notepad++. And wherever I want the image to appear, that's where I'm going to do this. So I want it to appear just underneath where I've written the Goonies. So that's where I'm going to type something. The tag to include an image is simply IMG. As you might imagine, that's kind of short for image. There's more to it than that, though. We can't just put image and leave it at that. Nothing will happen. It doesn't know what image to display. So we have to tell it that. So in order to do that, we're going to add an extra attribute. Actually, before I tell you that, what are you noticing about this? Look at the H2 tags, the P tags, the body tags, the head tags, title tags. They all had an opening and a closing tag. An image tag is an empty tag, just like BR. It's empty. We're just saying BR just said here is where there's going to be a line break, a new line. Image just simply says here's where there's going to be an image. Okay, we don't need to say here's the start of the image, here's the end of the image. Right, back to what I was saying. We need to tell it what image to display. So what we do is inside the tag here, before the greater than symbol, we do a space, and then we can add in attributes. Now this actually works for any opening tag at all. They can all have attributes added to them. Attributes are just extra information about it. So you can, for example, with a P tag, a paragraph, you can add in extra attributes that change the way it looks, if you want. If not, then it just does its thing, its sort of default thing. For an image, we have to put in this attribute. It is src. Now, I'm going to warn you now, this is where you'll make a mistake a lot. People quite often type SCR. I'm not actually quite sure why that is. SRC, it is short for source. The source of the image, where it is. Where it's coming from, rather. So, SRC, you have to type exactly that. Equals. And then speech marks. Now, don't make the mistake here of doing 2 apostrophes. Not the same thing. Hold down Shift and press 2. That's where you'll find the speech marks. Okay? I'm just going to do 2 sets of speech marks now. Inside the speech marks, we are going to put the file name and file extension of our image. Now, if you've forgotten what that is, just go back and check. Probably go back to the right place would be good. So it is called Goonies, my one, and it is a JPEG. .jpg is what I'm going to put. So Goonies, And then this is what we mean by a file extension. It's when you put a little dot at the end of the file name, and then you put this extra bit of information that tells the computer what type of file it is, because computers deal with so many different types of file. So this extension tells it what type of file, and therefore it knows how to deal with it. Right, let's try that, shall we? So remember, we save, Control S, quickest, easiest way. That's gone blue, so I know it's saved now. And then I'll run it in Chrome or whatever browser you've got, and hopefully, who knows, I might have made a mistake, hopefully it's going to appear. There we go, stunning, not bad. I'm zoomed in quite a lot there, you can see. So that's it, size. Now actually, you can see why, if I zoom in more and more, you'll see why we want to get images at the largest size possible. Look what happens to this. It just ends up looking rubbish as I enlarge it, because I had it small. If I wanted it to be looking good large, then I need to get the original as large as possible. I mean, it looks okay like that. You can't see how terrible it is. Okay, now by the way, just going back to file extensions, this is part of the reason why you should avoid putting symbols in your file names. Like I said, a dash or an underscore, fair enough. Other than that, don't bother with symbols. You decide to stick a full stop in there, then the computer starts to get a bit confused about what's going on, what file type it is. Okay, now supposing we don't want it displayed at that size. So, by the way, that is the basics. You know what? Forget what I was about to say. Let's make sure we've at least covered the basics. So I'm just going to put in a little comment. Remember, you have to be careful with these. They're quite fiddly. But then type whatever you like within it. So img to display an image. And let's see, the src attribute sets the file name. And then that's how we finish the comment. And I'm just going to put a couple of common errors here. Common errors. So, misspelling src, not saving the image into the same folder. I mean, really, actually, this is probably the most common one, as the HTML. We'll maybe add some more to that in a second. I couldn't have done that deliberately. I wouldn't have thought of that. Misspelling. Right. Constantly in class, people will always be saying, "Oh, I've done everything right here. I've done everything right, and my image isn't displaying." And they haven't done everything right because their image is saved in some random place, or they've misspelled the file name, or they've forgotten the file extension. Or using the incorrect file extension. Forgetting the file extension. Okay. Oh, by the way, sorry, I just see something happening there. Little Notepad++ tip. If you're finding you're typing, and as you get to the end of the line, it just keeps going. I'm pointing at the screen with my finger. What a fool. If it just keeps going and you end up having to sort of scroll along to the right, the way to fix that is go to View and make sure Word Wrap is on. I find that a lot easier to work with. Okay, View Word Wrap. Anyway, so forgetting the file extension or using the incorrect file extension, these are all really, really common sort of errors. Okay, Control S to save that. Seems to be working. Now, if we want it, excuse me, if we want it at a different size, we can add in some additional attributes. So there are two attributes, width and height, that we can change. So let's say I actually want that a lot wider. I can just take a space and then width equals, in speech marks. Now let's do something. It's going to look dreadful. So whatever number you like here, PX, which is for pixels, the little dots which make up the screen. So I'm basically saying I want the picture to be 500 pixels wide. Now if I just do that, then it'll automatically adjust the height when it displays it, so it doesn't get stretched or anything. Okay, so I'm just going to width equals, and then speech marks, whatever width you want. Let's just have a quick look. Refresh that. There we go. If I want, I could do that with the height. So let's just refresh that. You'll see the height change. Okay, so height 500 pixels, automatically adjusted the width so that the picture stayed the same ratio. It didn't get all stretched or squashed. If I want, I can set both, but I'd better be careful not to stretch things. So, you know, I'll deliberately squash it here. If I set width to 100 pixels, so it's no longer working out properly for me. It's not trusting me, but I have to have done it right. So there, height 500, width 100. Looks dreadful. Okay. Couple little of extension things. How we're doing? I mean, that's the basics of it covered, but I guess a bit more extension stuff. There are other attributes we can add in. And by the way, the attributes, so you have to have img at the start, but then all these attributes, source, height, width, doesn't matter what order I put them in. And source is the only one I have to put in. The rest, these are all optional. Okay, it'll work with or without them. But just for anyone who fancies being a bit more pro, showing off a little bit, we can put in one called alt. And what this does is it's short for either alternative or alternate. I'm not really sure. Either will do. And we can put a bit of text in here. The Goonies, whatever. And what happens with this is, well, if I refresh it, you'll see absolutely nothing happen. Okay, nothing looks different in any way. But let me just show you something. If I've messed this up, so it could be that I've messed it up. So when it tries to display this image, it's not going to find one called Goonie because that doesn't exist in that folder. So it's not going to be able to display it. But what it will do is display the alt text. Okay, it displays it here. That's not a very good piece of alt text. Really, I could do something a bit more descriptive. This is also used by screen readers. So people who have a visual impairment use something called a screen reader, screen reading software. And what it does is when they look at the web, so they can be completely blind, and when they look at the web, the screen reader goes through, it actually goes through the code, and it reads it to them. Okay, so it reads out stuff. It doesn't read the tags. It doesn't go H2, my favourite movies, close H2. It doesn't do anything like that. It reads it out. Where there's an image, it'll say image, and it reads the alt text to them. So without the alt text, they won't know what there's a picture of. With the alt text, you can put something descriptive here, and that's what will get read out. Anyway, that's advanced stuff. You don't need to worry about that, but it's just a good little tip if you want to do a good job of things. One final little thing, just for a bit of fun, I quite like the title attribute. So again, all these attributes can be in whatever order you like. The only important thing is img at the start, and you have to have in there somewhere your src attribute. So title, a snapshot from the Goonies. Okay, so if you try this yourself, you'll be able to see it working. Oh wait, have I got it actually displaying? I better fix that. Goonies, and you know what, let's get rid of that horrible stretchedness. So save that. I just fixed the file name and got rid of the width attribute there, so it works out itself. So it's displaying properly. Again, you won't see anything straight away, but if I hover over that, there we go. The title displays. It's called a little tooltip. Okay, title text there. Which is just, again, a nice little professional touch if you want your website to look particularly cool. If you don't include the title attribute, nothing displays when you hover over it. And that's fine. But it's just a little hint to look cool. Right, final thing, I think. I just want to show you, if you're still here, if you're still listening, you can do this. Don't worry about this, but it's just something you can do. You can add a folder in. So if you start to have lots of images, if your website grows in size, then this is a useful thing to do. Keeping things organized. I talked about file management previously. I'm going to add a folder in here, and I'm just going to call it images. I could call it whatever I want, but images make sense because that's what I'm going to put in it. I'm just going to drag this into the image folder. Okay, so it's now in there. Now this is just a useful way to keep things organized. Excuse me. I'm trying not to cough right into the microphone. Right, and I'm nearly done, which is good because I've been rambling on for 20 minutes. So what's my point? Oh yeah, so we can keep things organized. So if I had like 30 pages in my website and I had 100 images, it would be a bit rubbish if they were all just sitting here in one folder, okay, all mixed up together. So it makes sense to do this. The problem is that now this src attribute is going to look for goonies.jpg inside the same folder as this HTML document, which is just S1 Notepad example site, and it's not going to find it. So I'm going to refresh that now that I've moved the image, and it won't find it. Good thing I've got my alt text. However, how do we fix that? Well, we just put in the file path. So the file path, I just mean from where we are, from the location of this document. Okay, its location is in this folder. From this location, how do I get to my image? Well, that's easy. I go into the images folder, and there it is. So let's add in the folder we need to go to. This is called the path to it. Images/Goonies.jpg. So it's that slash. Wait, is that the right slash? I do. Sometimes I think about things too hard and I think, is it a backslash or a forward slash? I don't know. I'm about to find out if that works. Yes. Of course. I knew that. I knew that. I'll go and edit that bit out. No, I won't. I can't be bothered. Right. So images slash means go into that folder called images. Okay, and that's the end of the folder's name. And now in there, look for Goonies, and it's a JPEG file. And it'll find it there. Okay, in the images folder, there's Goonies. So you might have slightly different things depending on the image you're using. You might be putting PNG here. Okay, if it's a ping file, but again, let's just show you common error there. So people think, oh, they just start sticking the same file extension for everything. Well, it's not going to find that. It won't display it because there's no ping file called Goonies. There's only a JPEG file called Goonies in that location. Other ones you might get are GIF and BMP. They're the main ones you're likely to encounter. Okay, right. I think that is everything. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Okay, good luck and have fun adding some images. Okay, see ya.